again, we have a fireside chat for you all. And I've recruited a couple people to actually do the introductions so you don't have to continue to hear me talk.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Payne, this is Kimberly Reynolds. We are the capture team at CSCI Consulting, a woman-owned small business here in town. We also work with Miranda a whole bunch on different opportunities. So we're going to go ahead and do the introductions for the fireside chat and then we'll get started. So speaking today, we have Ms. Kaylee Diamond, who currently serves as the Deputy for Small Business at NSWC Crane. In this role, she acts as an advisor regarding the small business program. She oversees the planning, controlling, and reporting of the command's activities related to small business matters and reviews procurement programs to identify potential opportunities for sourcing from small businesses. Ms. Diamond started her career at Crane in 2018 as a contract specialist in the Expeditionary Weapons Contract Branch.
Thank you for being here. Okay, we also have Mr. Matt Burkett, who serves as Director of Innovation Pathways for Applied Research Institute, ARI. In his current role, Matt serves as the Director of the Indiana FAST program. Prior to joining ARI, Matt served as the Small Business Program Director, also at Crane, where he was the single point of contact for all small business matters for the command. So welcome, Matt. All right, and lastly, moderating our panel today, or our fireside chat, sorry, is Mr. Heath Murray, who along with the Ivy Tech Foundation and the Cook Center for Entrepreneurship assisted with forming the Defense Innovation Networking Group, where he now serves as the Executive Director. Prior to this role, he spent almost a decade as a police officer and served as a DoD contractor and as the Program Manager at NSWC Crane. So welcome, Heath, and please join me in welcoming the speakers for a fireside chat.
All right. Most importantly, Mr. Tim Aldridge from MetroStar left early today because it is his anniversary. If you have his phone number, tell him that Greg Sapp said to call him and wish him happy anniversary. All right. Feel like we've been here before. Half dozen times in the last year? Awesome. Now these two are great. Pretty awesome succession here. So as I said earlier, Matt was former Deputy Small Business at Crane. Now they are right, and now Kaylee stepped in to take that role a year ago-ish? 6 months, okay. So lots of knowledge here in the DoD ecosystem. So just to kick it off, we know what you're doing now. Can you two talk just a little bit about prior to your roles? Because I think that has a lot to do with your current roles. It has a lot to do with how you wound up there and how you can further assist our defense ecosystem.
You want me to start? Sure. Heath, thank you for the question. Miranda, thank you for having us up here today. Again, Matt Burkett, Director of Innovation Pathways for ARI. So prior to ARI, so I've been with the company for about, it'll be a year on October 16th. So that year, 1 year anniversary is coming up. Prior to that, I spent about 19 years at Crane. So I was a warranted contracting officer for about 12 years. So the person issuing those 70-page government solicitations and then signing my name to it that everybody wants to hate right now. So I was doing that for 12 years and then was lucky enough to be selected as the Deputy for Small Business when the person who held that job was in the job for 22 years before he retired. So did that job for about 7 years, working a lot with small business, which kind of helped me transition into the position I'm in today with ARI, working with businesses located here in the state of Indiana, small businesses, to be more specific, but trying to support them in the Small Business Innovation Research, Small Business Technology Transfer Program. It's a federal program operated by the SBA, but there are 11 federal agencies that participate in that program, and we offer support services to those businesses to help them be successful. One of the things that I did at Crane was always wanted, we could talk about abstract things here and go after this, but where are the real dollars? Is anyone that we're working with winning contracts? And luckily at Crane, we would obligate north of $400 million a year to small business. So have a real passion for that, but then here in this role, get an opportunity to help businesses with this one specific program, but trying to help businesses here in the state of Indiana be more successful. And if you are, then I can provide you non-dilutive matching funds on top of that. So it's always nice to know, one, that we can help you with the actual proposal preparation, but then if you win, then there are monies that we can give you in back of that on top of what you get from the federal government. So with that, Kaylee, I'll pass it to you.
All right, yeah, if you didn't catch that, Matt was the previous deputy for small business, so he left big shoes to fill. It also means if you ask me tough questions that I don't know, we just refer to Matt and his expertise. I started out at Crane about 6 years ago in contracts. Actually, Matt was still in contracts when I started out over there. It worked in expeditionary contracts for a while, got familiar with the contract process, learned all the tedious things that you need to know for whenever it comes to doing work with the government. From there, I transitioned over and went to public affairs and did public affairs and community relations for a few years, which has helped me tremendously in taking on the small business role because it's kind of a balled up mix of the community outreach as well as the contract side of things. In my role in public affairs, I was active in 19 different chambers of commerce and EDCs, so got really familiar with a lot of resources and organizations that I'm now able to fall back on and reach out to as I'm trying to help the small businesses. Whether it's initially get their foot in the door in doing work with the government or small businesses that have been around for a long time that may have questions on upcoming opportunities and making sure that they have the resources that they need to be successful in doing work with the government.
So much knowledge. It's crazy. So leading into that, right, these roles and everything we're doing, the ecosystem, all that stuff. Little quick survey. Who in here is not currently working with the federal government in any way, shape, or form? I know 2 of you. Okay. We need to change that. There needs to be an entire half that's new to this, that is talking to the people in this room. We need to bring more of those in here, right? It's not just for contractors to grow and government and academia and stuff, right? So with that, who all is working with NSWC Crane? Who's all working with DFAS? Who's working with both? Problem. Why aren't we doing that? We're in the same state. How do we make it? That's what we want this panel to be about. The positions are great in what they do, but really getting in touch with the people behind that. So, Kaylee, Matt, how do we foster that relationship? We know that you're focused on small business, that is priority, but how for our large primes in the room, our government, civilians, and our other defense nonprofits, how do we all work together, kind of leading that from your perspective as the ecosystem for the companies in Fort Wayne to get below Indianapolis and the companies south of Indianapolis to get into Fort Wayne and everything in between?
Like I said, we'll hand the tough questions over to Matt.
So, I mean, you make a great point about, like ecosystem engagement and kind of cross-pollination between the different services that we work with. You could go back to the whole humble teacher thing. People in Indiana, we're humble. We don't really talk a lot about what we do. We just try to keep our head down and focus on the mission. But there comes a point where we do have to speak broadly about what we do and speak broadly about the opportunities that we have. So when we as a state are successful, when we do have opportunities, such as like we've been very fortunate at ARI, we're now leading 2 large national hubs. But getting that message out, like Silicon Crossroads, so it's very microelectronics focused. So letting people within the state, within the region know what we do, what is this vehicle that we have, what is this thing called a hub, and how do we bring businesses, whether they be small business, large business, non-traditionals, how do we bring them into the fold? Same thing with our Heartland BioWorks, which is a life science-based hub as well. Like, how do we bring companies within the state inside that and expose them to these federal opportunities? Because even though there's a lot of similarities between the commercial marketplace and the government marketplace, the government is just weird in a lot of ways. We do things a certain way, and it's trying to help businesses who have never worked with the feds before understand how the government does business, understanding that this is a long game, it's not a short game. If you're in it just for a year, then you probably shouldn't waste your time. I mean, you better be ready to be committed to this for a while to really start to see some success. But it's the other piece of it too is networking events just as this. As much as you're going to gather information from us, some of it's going to be useful and some of it's not. But coming to network with like-minded people, to people who are active in this ecosystem, active with these different government agencies, asking questions, not trying to be the smartest person in the room, trying to learn what you don't know, and then taking those steps to put your business in the best place to pursue these opportunities, I think is really one of the things that we need to do a better job of collectively here within the state is just, I don't want to say brag, but speak boldly about what we do and talk to these businesses about opportunities that are available.
And I'll completely agree with that. Being able to come to these events, I think a lot of it is on us to make sure that we're reaching out and we're being good partners. Whether it's with the DFASs of the world, or even making sure that, we're attending events like this, but then making sure that you guys know who we are and how to do business with us. Making sure you know of the opportunities that we have coming up, and then making sure that we're available for you guys to come talk to us. I keep Tuesdays completely free on my calendar for industry discussions. So reach out, send me your information, send me your capability statements, get on my calendar so that we can sit down and talk about who you are and what you do and how to get you involved with Crane. And I think later in this panel, we'll talk about some of the events that we have coming up at Crane to where we can get you guys more involved and kind of show you who we are at Crane, what we do, the capabilities that we're looking for, and then those contract opportunities that we have coming down the pipeline.
And I think that you guys had a great point with that. Is one thing I've noticed in probably the last couple of years is really kicking off industry, government, academia as we're making more of a circular motion. We're not just saying, hey, it goes to Kaylee, she's like, this isn't a Crane thing, I don't know. She's like, hey, I got a company over, or a POC over AFRL, or RIPAT, NGA, etc., that may not be a fit for us, but we should kick them over that way. And I think that's been a huge change, is getting more of the, not a benefit to us, but it's a benefit to the ecosystem. And tagging into that, we're gonna pivot back to the small business side, and I think, Kaylee, this is gonna be for you, because we talked about this a decent amount, is can you, maybe dispel some of the contracting myths? Like, you don't have contract, you don't write contracts yourself, right? You're not giving that money, that goes to a team. One of the things that Mr. Greg Sapp and I, through all of our innovation stuff here, is more often than not, it's a really weird one, is I wasn't in the military, I can't work with the DoD. Heard like 5-6 times. So can you maybe talk about some stuff that you've heard, or just for the new people in the group, to kind of dispel that and say, look, I think the RFI, the BAA that's coming out, it's a great point to kick off.
So the BAA, if you were here this morning and heard the Crane team talk, we've got a BAA that's currently out, a broad agency announcement. Go in there and check that out. There's 10 different interest areas within Crane, and submit a white paper. It doesn't have to be, you know, a 50-page proposal. Go in and submit the information that you want. And like Marie was saying, those come directly, they get funneled directly through her. There's 10 different point of contacts within there for those different interest areas. But she looks at those and she makes sure that, you know, within 30 or 45 days, they're reaching back out to you to kind of let you know whether there's interest or not. And just like we previously talked about, it may not be something that Crane is interested in, but I've seen multiple of those white papers get sent off, whether it be to the Army side or to the Marine Corps, where there may be interest within a different organization that's not Crane. So we share that information. No, I do not write contracts. I left contracts a few years ago. You don't want me writing your contracts. I don't have a pile of money that I can just award you if you submit a proposal and it looks interesting. However, you know, I have those conversations with contracts. I sit in our contracting office at least 1 day a week. So while I'm not writing the contracts and I don't have money to hand to you, I have the conversations with those folks that you guys need to be familiar with. And coming to some of those events, like Connect to Mission that we have coming up, we hold those quarterly, and they go through each of the different mission areas at Crane. So that's a great way to get familiar with the different departments at Crane. But then also kind of, it opens the door to you guys. As you get familiar with Crane, you kind of learn where the responsibilities and roles lie. So no, I don't write contracts. That didn't sound good. I think somebody broke something. I don't write contracts, but I do interact with the contracts department on a regular basis. So I can help to answer those questions. I can help to point you in the right directions when you have questions, and help find the resources that you need. I won't sign the contract, but I know the people that do.
Anything to add to that, Matt? Sorry, well. So with that, you know, it is just crazy how many times you know, hey, does Kaylee write contracts? No, she doesn't. But I think with that, as you mentioned, like, you know, we don't write, we do all this stuff. There's also a ton of resources in our state. We have SBA, ISBDC, IEDC, Apex, all that stuff, right? AFCEA, our organization, all that stuff. ARI. Matt, I think this one's going to lean towards you. Is how does someone get kicked off for your organization, you know, that may not know? Like, can they just send an email to you, get connected through Miranda, AFCEA, et cetera? We all know, but what's that look like to you?
Yeah. I mean, really, it's as easy as sending an email. If you've got my phone number, call me. I was telling Lindsay earlier, like, I love talking with the businesses. Like, I want to know what you do. I would rather talk to you than receive an email from you, because you can only gather so much via an email. But yeah, Heath, you're right. I mean, we've got a lot of resources here in the state. We've got, you know, again, the SBIR program that's, you know, kind of owned by the SBA. Like I said, there's 11 agencies that participate in that program. If that's a path you want to pursue, we have free resources to you at ARI that we can provide. And when I say free, I mean, most of the time you hear free, it's like, those resources really any good. You're working with consultants that are about as good as you're going to find in this game. So I would advise you, if you want to figure out what agency aligns with your technology, if you need help writing an SBIR or STTR proposal only, we can help you with typical government contracts. I just want to be clear. We can help you with that. And then again, like I mentioned, if you're successful, then we can provide you non-dilutive matching funds to help you in your commercialization journey. So we've got those. I mean, there's the ISBDC. So if you're a brand new business, or if you're, you know, trying to figure out, you know, hey, how do I start this thing? I think SBIR, or I think working with Crane, something I want to do. I would encourage you to reach out to your local ISBDC. I mean, they're regionally located. Those are free services to you as a business. They can provide a lot of robust support, especially the one thing that always sticks out to me is some of the market research services that they can offer you. Like Mike was talking about earlier with NSWC, a program that he and I used to work together when I was at Crane. talking about that total addressable market. What is my total addressable market? And reach out to the ISBDC. They've got some resources. They can help you kind of capture that, put that together if there are opportunities that you want to look at. The other thing that I think, talking about the ecosystem and more engagement, but partnering with our universities and our federal labs, but specifically the universities. ARI has a program called the Innovation Voucher Grant Program, where we can provide funding to support a business that has a research project with an Indiana-based college or university or Indiana-based nonprofit. It's a one-to-one match program. We can provide up to $50,000 per project with a $100,000 lifetime cap. I mean, partnering with universities, looking at university IP that's been created, how do you license that and then pursue other federal opportunities? I think those are some of the things that we need to be thinking about, especially as small businesses. How do you get creative? How do you maximize the resources that are available to you in the state? How do you leverage those resources and then go out and pursue these federal opportunities and already have a jump start on a lot of your competition? So.
Yeah, we hear that a lot with that resources, and I think the biggest thing you hit on there is one of the fights of a small business, and those small businesses in here, is the help with the writing of it, right? Yeah. Even the SIPR, right? That's awesome. There's times that we'd love to have it for a full-blown proposal, right? But even just being that SIPR, it's all about telling that story, right? Because then SIPR phase 1, they like it, they kick it to 2 or direct 3, right? And then you're kicking over to Kaylee, and we're kicking it to all around the Midwest. And I think that's where you really step in, and we really show that ecosystem to grow that. Kind of tagging into that, this dreaded DoD Valley of Death, right? We've lived it. If there wasn't one, I wouldn't have an organization. I'd probably still be doing cybersecurity at Crane. So, how do we, and I'll kick this to both of you, how do we as an ecosystem push through that? Right? It's not just, and it's not an easy answer, right? It's not. I think it's attrition, setting up multiple chess pieces and moving and shaking. But what can we do with our organizations to push through that, other than just the basic programs?
Yeah. You want to start? Heath, that's a really tough question. I mean, that's probably the $1 billion question in a lot of ways, because there's so many businesses trying to cross that valley of death. I look at it as, in my world, you get through the end of a phase 2 SBIR, and now, especially in DoD, it's like, all right, who's this long-term customer? Because I can't use SBIR dollars anymore. I've got to go find programmatic dollars to put toward this. Who's my customer? So that's a tough question, but one of the things I will tell you, I guess just a small piece of advice, it's probably, everybody probably knows it, but what I'll say is as you're moving through those SBIR phase 1s and phase 2, you need to be so entrenched with that government customer and talking with that government customer on a regular basis, understanding what their transition plan is, what is their long-term expectation for this piece of technology. And the other thing I think, kind of again going back to what Mike talked about earlier, but also having that dual use. I mean, working in defense, defense buys a lot of things that are very focused on defense. They don't always have a commercial application to it. But as you're moving through that life cycle there of phase 1 and phase 2, also, as much as you need to be tied at the hip with your customer, understanding what their need is and how does your solution fit that need, it's also that government piece of it too, because you have a much better chance of moving that piece of technology across the valley of death if you have that commercial use. Because a lot of times, unless it's in some kind of program of record, it may be a long time. So it's one of those things I don't want to lie to you. You want to set the expectations. Don't want anybody to tell you oh, it's so easy, you can do it. Everybody does it all the time. That's not true. But because it will take a lot of work, bless you. It will take a lot of work for you to be out with those government customers, especially in the DoD, shopping it. You're going to hear a lot of no's, but you've got to be able to push through that. Try to find the right people, such as Kaylee, Heath, myself. even some of our large government partners here in the back, but trying to get to those program offices to talk about the goodness of your particular solution and how it fits into the larger Navy or DoD need, and trying to attract funding to that. Because like I said, if you don't do that, it could be a long road.
I think, Kaylee, before you kick off, I think a big part, and you said it very well, is government customers get entrenched. It's also ask. DoD's a big ecosystem. It's also a pretty tight ecosystem. That's what we like about it, is reach out, ask. We work with people that we had nothing to do with them, but we got them connected with the right folks. Matt's done that. Doesn't have times for me.
I'll piggyback off that. You have to be persistent, and you have to realize that nothing within the government happens overnight. So if you're going into any of this and expecting to have, your first government contract, in the next month, that's not realistic. I'm pretty sure the government's motto is hurry up and wait. And it can be frustrating. So knowing that and setting your expectations up front, knowing where it is that you fit in to the government. So, like we've said a couple of times now, we may not buy it at Crane, but we're pretty good about knowing who does buy it. So we may not be your end customer, it may not be us that you really need to be working with, but we'll do our best to point you in the right direction of where you do need to be. But on your end, do that homework. Get familiar with all of the different organizations within the government, know who we are at Crane and what it is that we need, what we buy, the capabilities that we're looking for. When I meet with small businesses, one of the first things that I do is send over the Crane overview, which kind of breaks that down so that you can tell me where you fit in. Tell me where, in which department do you think that you're going to be most utilized? And that's just Crane. So the more familiar you get with the different organizations within the government will help to dictate kind of the direction that you need to go. But yes, ask. If you're not sure where that is, or you need help making introductions where you are going to fit in, let us know. We don't know how to help you unless you tell us how to help you. Let us know where it is that you're running into roadblocks. Let us know where it is that you're running into issues. We may not be the ones with the answer, but we know the people that have the answers. We know what resources to point you towards and to get you the help that you need.
And out of anything today, I really wanted to focus on the people in the seats for that answer right there. Maybe I don't want to work with Crane, but I'm going to email Kaylee anyway. Great, right? That's fine. Lastly, before Q&A, Kaylee, can you just reiterate once again how to get in contact with you, like your office hour days? What's that literal first step to work with you and then Matt will have to take over?
Send me an email or call me. I think these slides are going out. I think my email is in there 1, if not 2 or 3 different times. So reach out. I've got business cards back there. Send me an email, get on my calendar. I typically sit at Westgate at least a few days a week so that I have access to industry and outside of the government. I sit on base a day or 2 a week so that I have access to our contracts departments and our technical folks. So I make myself available as much as possible. Send me an email. We'll get you on the calendar. I agree with what Matt said earlier. I want you to email me so that I can get a time set up and can dedicate time to you, because it is so much easier to have a phone call or a Teams meeting or have you come down to my office, or I will meet you in Bloomington and we'll get coffee. But having those actual face-to-face conversations, even virtually, is 10 times better than you sending me an email and saying, hey, we do cybersecurity work, can you get me a contract?
Everyone does cyber now. Matt, same with you? Email? Phone call?
Yeah, email, phone call. Want to talk to you, want to figure out how we can help. I mean, that's kind of what Kaylee and I get paid for, is to be a resource to help. So if my email's not in there, I don't know if it is, but it's matt.burkett@theteari.us. Email me, we can set up a Zoom call or a Teams call, Zoom call, whatever you want, and talk about how we can help.
I can share his email too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure we're both Google searchable as well, so
If not, I give their emails out like candy. So just reach out to me. It's what I have to do. So before we go into Q&A, if you don't mind, Miranda, really want to hit on your events. I didn't want to, do the last 30 seconds with that. So we have a huge event focused on us coming up, Matt. Can you talk about that with your organization?
Yeah, so in a couple of weeks, October 16th and 17th, we have the Midwest Defense Innovation Summit in Indianapolis at the Convention Center. So it's a 2-day event. We've got a heck of an agenda set up for the 2 days. Again, showcasing what we're doing here in the Midwest, showcasing what we're doing here in the defense space in Indiana, trying to get that message out. So if you haven't checked it out, you can search Midwest Defense Innovation Summit. Sign up. There's still a few slots left, but would love to see you guys there.
I will not be at that event because I have a 5-year-old that I promised I would take to the beach for fall break. But we do have a handful of other events coming up. October 29th, we've got Connect to Crane. It'll be at the Mill in Bloomington. I believe all of the slots are full for the speed networking, like the main event part, but Dean is graciously hosting a reception afterwards. I think 3 to 5:30 is the time slot.
Yeah, there may or may not be free beer. I think that's why they brought us in.
I will tell you that if you come to a Dean networking event, the snacks are usually good, the beverages are better. So by all means come. Like I said, it'll be from 3 to 5:30, grab a drink, network. We'll have multiple departments from Crane represented there, as well as 20 small businesses, and I think about 10 large businesses that'll be there. And then, like I said earlier, we do Connect to Mission events quarterly. The next one is November 5th. Each one of those events focuses on a different department at Crane. This one in November will be focused on our business operations side of things, but it will also be a Team Crane event. If you're not familiar with Crane as a whole, it is ran by NSA, the Naval Support Activity. Their leadership will be there, as well as CAAA, the Crane Army Ammunition Activity. So it'll be a great way to get familiar with who Crane is, how we do business, as well as meet some of the other tenants there on base to get more engaged with them as well.
And next April, so we can put that on the calendar.
Yes, and April 1st is Buy Indiana at French Lick. It's a large expo. Come get signed up, get a table, get a booth. We typically have a little over 200 participants from Crane that will be there walking around. Folks from contracts, our engineers, our RTAs, there to learn who you are and what you do. So please come set up a table, showcase your capabilities, and get that face-to-face, one-on-one time with the folks at Crane that are making those decisions. Because again, I don't write contracts.
No, I think those are going to be awesome events. Buy Indiana has been going on 27 years. Connect to Mission 3 or 4 years.
I think we'll get ready to start.
I know we got some people involved, the Crane Regional Defense Group. They're focused there in the Crane region. I recommend reaching out to them, talking to them. And what can we do to grow just that networking, right? As you guys kicked off this conversation, is writing's great, your technical capabilities are great, we're Hoosiers. Shake hands, get out there and talk to people, right? And with that, we have 10 minutes, I think. Any questions for Matt, Kaylee?
Thank you. Just to be clear, Kaylee, do you write contracts? Just curious.
I used to. I do not.
I'm full of jokes. I've heard that SIBRs are pre-chosen. In other words, the government's already had a company in mind. They want to choose, I'm just going to randomly choose the word Palantir. That was supposed to be funny. No, but generally, they have a company in mind. Is that true? Is it worth my time to submit for a SIBR without talking to the program office first?
Yes, it is worth your time to submit, even if you haven't talked to a program office before. To answer your other question, I'm not going to say that stuff doesn't happen. It's not supposed to happen, but I'm not going to sit here and be naive enough to think that stuff like that doesn't happen. So if you do get an opportunity to get in front of one of those program offices that do make those decisions, I would highly encourage that. That way you can kind of, as we used to say, help shape a requirement to then, also kind of pitch for your business, but seen it many times on the SBIR side, seen it many times on the traditional government route. Like, you don't have to be in front of those program offices. It helps, but if you write a really solid proposal, your pricing's good, your technical approach is good, you got a good opportunity of winning. I've seen a lot of businesses at Crane when I was there, companies I had never heard of, win $30, $40 million contracts. I'm like, who the heck are these guys? They just wrote a really solid proposal, had great pricing, and most of them performed well. So it can happen.
I was just going to share a quick comment as from a person who actually funds SBIRs in my O&R role. None of our SBIR performers at O&R, nor the two performers I oversaw when I was managing a DARPA SBIR, did I know. So none were pre-chosen.
Any other questions? Oh, you guys are making me go.
Thanks for sharing your experiences and the resources. Just had two questions. One is, if you can give an example of some of the successes you guys are talking about, small business, and maybe so that's someone that's, if you can recall, a company that's not so defense focused, but maybe more general IT, but had an application there at Crane, wasn't doing business at Crane, but had a success there. That's question one. And question two is, what are the differences among the different events there? I see Connect to Crane, Connect to Mission, and something expeditionary. I can't really tell the difference.
I can tell you, similar to what Matt just said, I have seen contracts awarded, I've only been in the small business role for about 6 months now, but I see it all the time where companies are, being awarded contracts and they're not somebody that I'm familiar with or that I have sat down with and had conversations. So it happens all the time that there are successes within getting contracts, even though you've not currently been integrated into doing work with the government. We just ended FY24, and I think that it was $461 million that Crane had obligated to small businesses. And last time I looked, which was about 2 weeks ago, I think $70 million of that went to Indiana-based businesses. So $70 million straight to Indiana businesses. So if that doesn't at least speak somewhat to our success, I don't know what will. As far as the second question, Connect to Mission is where you get introduced to our different departments within Crane. The day is kind of set up. There'll be panels throughout the day of Crane's leadership, so you get to hear directly from them who they are, what they do, the capabilities that they're looking for, and then upcoming contract opportunities that they have immediately coming down the pipeline. That happens quarterly. Connect to Crane is a yearly speed networking event. I think of it like a speed dating. There's 20 different tables set up, and 20 small businesses are able to come in and have 10-minute one-on-one conversations with Crane folks that have upcoming contracts, as well as large businesses that are looking for partnerships, that are looking for subcontractors, that are looking for capabilities that you bring to the table. And then the Buy Indiana Expo is just that. It's an expo full of usually about 200 vendors, setting up tables, showcasing who they are, the capabilities that they bring to the table. And then it is only Crane folks that you will have, well, Crane folks and the companies that are there, walking around having those conversations as they're out. They use that as a way to do some of their market research. So they're out having those conversations with you, learning who you are and what you do.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you, guys.